history has a very, very unfortunate lesson for us if you look at the whole Israel-Palestine issue. Whenever a major violent conflagration takes place, then suddenly the Palestinian issue receives attention from all sides. Then this is followed by discussion and agreement. Then once this agreement is reached, then comes deterioration and non-implementation. And when that comes, another round of violence starts, and then so on. And that's how this cycle of violence goes on. And just to give you a couple of examples, you are aware of this, of course, the Yom Kippur War, which was in 1973. But when the war took place, and irrespective of what happened, the outcome of the war, but it did lead to Camp David agreements and Camp David Accords between Egypt and Israel in 1978. And of course, there was also in the Camp David Accords the promise of Palestinian self-government in West Bank and Gaza. And then, of course, nothing happened. And then the Intifada broke out in 1987. Let us not forget that Hamas came into existence in 1987, 1988, after the Intifada broke out. And this led to the Oslo Accords of 1993 and 1995. And once again, it had self-rule in the West Bank and in Gaza. And it tried to once again bring up and embody the principle of land for peace in these Oslo agreements. But you know very well what happened. The land which was supposed to be, the Israeli forces were supposed to withdraw from the land, occupied territories, in return for the Palestinians recognizing Israel, making sure that there is sovereignty, territorial integrity, security for Israel, and peace comes. Now, this unfortunately got translated on the ground as people for peace, and which effectively meant that those territories or those areas where Palestinians were living, that went to the Palestinian Authority. And it was not really land, it was those areas which went to them. So giving the Palestinian areas to the Palestinian Authority, and then expecting somehow miraculously that without giving land you can get a sovereign state, or I don't even know whether they wanted to concede the sovereign state, but then miraculously somehow peace will come. It didn't come, and it was very obvious. And then other things happened, about how Gaza, as everyone says, has become literally an open air prison. And so when all these things started deteriorating, and there was backsliding, and we had, and you have seen the rocket attacks which took place in May 2021 from that side. And tragically, one of our own Indian nationals, she was killed during the attacks. So I think Israel has had numerous chances to get it right. And it is also important, it was also equally important for the Palestinians to get it right. But when you are occupying a territory, the person, the country occupying it has the onus is on that country to come forward. And it didn't happen. So I think, and now it was very clear for anyone following this issue that if you're going to ignore the Palestinian issue, go for so-called normalization with exactly those countries which were supporting the Palestinian cause, with Abraham Accords, and now, of course, the latest was Saudi Arabia was moving towards it. And then on the Israeli side, you have a ultra-nationalist government which does not believe in a two-state solution, and it wants to occupy the West Bank through settlements. And on the Palestinian side, you have a completely fragmented set of Palestinian, the moderates, which, every attempt was made to discredit them. And on this side, you had, of course, Hamas, which it was impossible for them for anyone to negotiate with Hamas, because Hamas had a very different ideology and the way the militant set of groups which were there. And so if you have all these things, and then you continue this cycle of violence in East Jerusalem, nearly 250 Palestinians were killed in West Bank just this year, before October 7. So, there is no Hamas in the West Bank. So how did this 250 get? So when you look at all these things, it was very clear that history, as you said, this cycle of violence, agreement, this is something which needs to be stopped. And here we have once again a conflagration, and there is somewhere, sometime, someone has to step in and stop this cycle.